So I've talked before about the geographical inconsistencies between Guild Wars 1 and 2, but this one's a bit special. See, in Guild Wars 1, the Catacombs, they were a place only seen in pre-searing Ascalon. They were used for a few quests and they were kind of dangerous but not that crazy. But you could only access them in pre-searing because they were blocked off in the searing. Of course, the Catacombs that we know in Guild Wars 2 are quite different and even serve as a dungeon with some major lore things going on. Some may pass off these huge changes as simply like a design change, because honestly that's what I thought it was for the longest time. But if you ever stop to think about it, you quickly realize that these catacombs cannot possibly be the same place. Because here's the thing, looking at all the entrances to the catacombs in Guild Wars 1, we can see that the general layout and how it extends from east of Duke Baradin's estate all the way down to west of Regent Valley, so it covers kind of this little mountain area in the middle of the zone. But if we look at the Ascalonian catacombs in Guild Wars 2, we can see that they start just southwest of the city, and then they run underneath the city itself, and the center of the catacombs coincides with the center of the city, as we know by looking down into the heart of the Foefire, and it's also in the books, I believe. So it quickly becomes apparent that there is absolutely zero overlap between these two places, because they start in completely different areas and run in opposite directions. I mean, you could argue that perhaps they just moved the catacombs a bit, but the weird thing is that Ashford Abbey, the Guild Wars 1 catacombs entrance, it's still there, albeit it is caved in. But this means that the Guild Wars 1 catacombs, they must still exist in the game. They're still there. See, the second strange thing is that these catacombs from Guild Wars 2, which supposedly have been around for quite some time as it seems, they weren't present in Guild Wars 1. I mean, the entrance to the Guild Wars 2 catacombs, not the caved in part in the center of the city, but the other entrance that you actually go into to get into the dungeon, that just appeared out of nowhere. It was not there in the first game. I don't know, I mean, maybe an earthquake shook something and this entrance like sprung out of the ground, but that seems kind of weird. And then another point that makes me think that they're definitely separate locations is the fact that if you look at the Guild Wars 1 catacombs, they're very broken down and they're definitely in the process of being reclaimed by nature. And they also consist of several ravines and other naturally formed caves and areas, and you can tell this just by looking through there. You can see there's a whole bunch of like, you know, tree roots growing down, there's grass and whatnot, or well, not grass, but there's a bunch of dirt. It's kind of broken down, it's kind of built into like a cavern sort of. But the Guild Wars 2 catacombs, they appear to actually be like underground tombs that's built under the city, and when you compare them to the Guild Wars 1 catacombs, they're in pretty good shape for being 250 years older than the Guild Wars 1 catacombs. So I mean, does that completely confirm that they're different places? No, but I definitely think they're different. So here's the question. Why do we have what seems to be two completely different sets of catacombs with one appearing completely out of the blue? Well, I mean, if we look at this from a real-world perspective, I think that the answer is pretty clear. So, you know, ArenaNet, before Guild Wars 2 comes out, when they're in the development of it, so, you know, they wanted to build some sort of a dungeon based on the catacombs because they thought, oh, it'd be a cool idea. But, oh, wait, the layout for the catacombs is really weird. I don't think it's gonna work for a dungeon. So what do? Well, they build a new one for the ground up, and they just retcon it into the lore. Easy peasy. And yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much what happened here. But I think it would have been nice if there was at least some sort of an in-game explanation, or they made it a bit more obvious that perhaps the two are connected. I mean, the Guild Wars 2 wiki even says that the catacombs, referring to the Guild Wars 2 catacombs, of course, were the ones that were lost after the searing, but were then rediscovered later. So even the wiki treats them as if they were the same place, but it isn't even possible for the two to be linked together as far as I can see. So, I mean, if you look at it from an in-game perspective, it's pretty weird. I just wish ArenaNet had done a better job covering up the tracks and perhaps explained that the two are connected or something, instead of just kind of leaving it blank and just kind of saying, well, whatever. I personally think they just retconned it without too much thought, but I mean, I don't know for sure. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but what do you guys think? I mean, if anyone has any sort of information that I haven't covered, or if they know if ArenaNet ever addressed this, which I'd be surprised if they did, or perhaps if there's some sort of in-game explanation that I just haven't come across, I'd be happy to hear it. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.